Hi, welcome to this evening's episode of our Barn Banter. Um, Brent and I had an interesting conversation this morning as it related to the news about the abuse of the animals that is being prosecuted right now from one of the training barns. We're not here to comment on that at all, but many of you probably don't know, Brent was on the Indiana Board of Animal Health for a few years and also has served as the president of the Indiana Horse Council.
Correct. Yep.
So there's a lot of back things that we in the industry really don't know that a lot of these associations deal with. And it dawned on me with his public, as this is being about the abuse, what is this going to do if the government and or Peta steps in? So Brent had some really good facts about that, so I thought it'd be great for us to share it with you. This is one of the few times I've got questions because there were specific things that I found to be very enlightening. So Brent, what happens if the government or Peta steps in?
Well, yeah, it's a little bit like the walking horses. We'll be under a lot of scrutiny about the care and how we treat our animals. PETA is, in my mind, in a lot of the discussions within different associations that the membership doesn't get to know about is, or does not hear about, is they feel that all horses should be like wild horses, pets, turned loose to let roam free and not be show animals, not be stalled and ridden and exhibited. And I am on record with several people that we've had this discussion. My fear is that within the next 10 or 15 years, we don't have horse shows. And PETA is on a mission to make some of those things happen. In California, I know that there's 3 counties right now that cannot have rodeos, and it's my understanding, and I'm not saying this is 100% correct, but I know it could be if it's not, that those same 3 counties have stopped having any sort of horse competitions, be horse shows, rodeos, any type of equine exhibitions has been stopped because they don't want to deal with PETA and the perceived training and abuse that the animals go through. And if granted, you know, that's a different part of the world than most of us live in here in the West, Midwest, East Coast. But if that gets a hold, you know, we're going to be faced with a lot more. And when we have public conversations and exploitation of alleged abuse, PETA will take note of that and start doing a lot more checkup and follow up, and this will just further their position, and ultimately ends up with the government, and the government just stops allowing these type of the activities that we participate in.
You know, because when we go to the horse shows, we have no idea if there's a PETA rep there or who's watching us from another set of eyes outside of the, what I'm going to refer to as our normal horse show industry. You know, there's probably people there that we are very unaware that is scrutinizing the things that we do all the time.
100%, especially at major events where we have lots of spectators and stuff. let's go back to, remember a few years ago when the Dairy Association, the dairy over here, Fairlane,
Fairlane.
Fairlane got in trouble. Okay, those are methods that PETA uses and will just randomly show up at our events and take pictures and documentation, and it will never be in a good light. It will always be in, to further their perceptions that we're abusive to our animals. And
Could you see that they would take the opportunity to scrutinize? I mean, we have legal bits now, okay?
Yep.
Could you see that they would take because I've heard that PETA really doesn't want us to ride with a bit. They want us to ride with a halter or a Bozell or a Hackmore.
Right.
They really don't even want the bits in their mouth.
That is true.
So, if they take this to the extreme, I mean, could they limit the amount, the bits, spurs become a thing of the past?
Yep. All of those things would be certainly under scrutiny. And in their eyes, they are considered inhumane. And, for those of us that can remember a little bit far back, they were inspecting. It's why our judges now inspect bits at least once, to make sure they're legal and they are humane. They check the sides of horses for spurs and open wounds, and that will be done more and more. If PETA gets involved, it'll just bring more and more scrutiny and controls as we go forward. Yeah, 100%.
And the problem that I see is that PETA or some of these animal rights organizations have huge dollars behind them.
Absolutely. Hollywood, the celebrities and huge money that do not understand. They are not horsemen. They do not understand what we do. They don't understand how many of us are humane, love our horses, take time and care and treatment, and they don't care about that, and they build us all up to be evil or mean or cruel to animals, and so it's a major concern. One thing I probably need to say, and you and I haven't talked about this, but almost all of the associations, certainly the major breed associations, have committees and people watching. The committee is animal welfare, equine welfare, and the associations are trying very hard and very active to self-police this, be aware of it, and working very hard to keep our record clean and not create an environment that would encourage PETA to come in and visit, especially our events. I'm concerned about what's going to happen at our personal training stables and the trainers and breeders that are not being monitored closely, or in most cases at all. I mean, we've been doing this in our lifetimes, over 50 years, and together we've been over 30 years, and nobody has just randomly showed up to inspect our facilities. There's no accountability for what we do, and I think those are the things that you're going to see coming in the near future is either your local governments, who are way overloaded now with no help, associations, and I keep referring back to PETA, and I don't want to, but they may just randomly have people stop and visit facilities. I don't want to be a person to scare anybody, but these concerns need to be very real. It's a very real situation, and when things like this happen, and most likely there will be more publicity at the very least, and they are taking notice of this, and will be really stepping up their observations and patrolling this, and as we go forward.
And I'm certainly not saying it's wrong that somebody has basically filed a complaint, okay? Because that's the way that things get changed.
Correct.
But what kind of scared me about it is as viral as this has gone, you know, the bigger picture and the stuff that we don't know behind the scenes, that activists will all of a sudden just figure that it's happening to everybody, and then everybody's going to pay the price. So, you know, you had mentioned that they really don't want us to ride our animals. They want these horses to be pets, you know, things we just keep around. And, you know, first thing that came to my mind was, you know, what about the animals that are actually the workhorses? They are people's livelihood.
Yeah, the Amish community in particular is probably one of the last segments that make a living with horses, not to take away cowboys and ranchers and people out west, but in the case of the Amish, they are somewhat excluded because of religious rights and freedoms, and they won't face the scrutiny that the show horse and breeders are. So it's a little different situation for them as being exempt. Yeah.
Well, it's certainly going to open many things to a lot of new looks, new scrutiny, new opportunities. If anybody has ever heard me talk about it, I have a real job. I don't just do the training. Not that training is not a real job, but I work outside the home. And I have said multiple times that we have a problem in the horse industry and that there's no accountability. If I pulled some of the things that I've seen happen in various aspects of the horse industry, you know, I'd be fired in a heartbeat. And because there is nobody in charge, because there is nobody that basically sets rules, and it's just too big and too private in some instances for somebody to actually make someone accountable. You know, I got away with this, so I'm going to try this, and I'm just going to keep what I call pushing the envelope until I get the results I want, or I get caught and I get shut down. But, you know, I just know that many people that work in places other than the horse industry have people that we've got to account to, and there's just none here.
I can agree with that, but we are accountable to the public and our customers to care for them, and just the same as employees in your job and your profession or other professions, there are people that live on the line and do things, you know, and we certainly have that in our business. We've known people that have pushed the envelope and done things that I didn't believe in or wouldn't do. And but there are a lot of good people in here in our industry, and you can never forget that. We are talking about a minority of my colleagues and peers, and so I don't want to discount that or you know, think that everybody's this way. the flip side to that is in our world and society, negative publicity gets all the attention, and we're all profiled as being mean or cruel if we're showing horses, and that is what animal rights people and associations will see and take issues with and make them issues to the general public that do not know anything about what we do or how we do it. So it's our job to promote all the good things and not always dwell on the bad things. So, I guess I think we're probably close to closing. On that vein, talk about your trainers that you're proud of and that don't do those things and are still successful in care and love their animals, and we need to talk more about that to keep things in perspective, that this is, these accusations, and there's only a far fewer that would or have done these type of things than what those of us that don't do those things. So promote the good stuff and talk about that 10 times more than you do the negative stuff, and that will help keep our image in society bright, I guess is a word that I would choose.
Well, it'll be certainly interesting to see if this stays in the horse show industry or it's going to travel outside of it and get made a little more big picture. So we'll just sit and watch the ride.
Well, I am absolutely 1,000% convinced this is not exclusive to what we do.
Yeah.
It's anytime you have competition and awards, there will be those that do whatever they have to do to win, and it is not exclusive to the horses. It's just what we're involved in.
So thank you for joining us for today's Barn Banter. If you like this, we of course have more ideas. You'll get to see some of our chats in other episodes. So subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us as we go down this journey. Thanks.
Have a great night.